So, during the 3.5 hours, President Xi Jinping made very, very important points about China's domestic interests, the domestic trajectory that China will take, especially in the economic field, the need for change, continuing reform, and staying open to the world. He also made some very interesting points about China and the world, China's engagement with the rest of the world. And there, I think, in today's times when everything is so uncertain, there's a lot of anxiety about where American policy is going. There's an increase in populism in Europe, amazing amount of people who are anti-globalization, fear, change and transition into a new world era. I thought Xi Jinping was very confident about it. He was very confident about China's role in this new era, and also that China would remain engaged. He talked about shared destiny, a common destiny for the world, and he was very, let's say, negative about closing down. And I think these are, very important messages in today's uncertain world. And if China, as the world's leading economy or one of the world's leading economies, sends a message of support and confidence in the new era, ready to change, ready to go with the flow, but also very confident that this new era will be working for China, I think this sends a message of confidence to the markets, to people, to exporters, investors, etc. So I think from that point of view, it was really something that a lot of people were looking for, a message of confidence, both in China itself, but also the world as it is today. An open world, an interconnected world, an interdependent world, common shared destiny. I think this is very amazing. This is important to see what I think we were all looking for in this speech, and people have been waiting for the 19th Party Congress for some time. People have been saying Xi Jinping will be China's most powerful leader since Mao Zedong, that he is the world's most powerful man, the man who has so much authority, so much clout, so much standing. He can change China in a minute. This is the impression that people had. And I think he has laid out a frame for change and reform and openness and China's path to becoming a great power. But he has promised this will be done, but it will take time. I mean, China today is still, in many ways, a developing country. People outside see the shiny towers of Shanghai and they see Beijing, but a vast land of China has pockets of poverty. There's still a struggle for development. And I think Xi Jinping has laid that out for the world to see. Yes, we will make progress, but it's going to be hard work. It's going to be hard work for the Chinese people. It's an amazing amount of work that's already been done. So much has happened in the last 30, 35 years. It is China is a model for many countries who are aspiring to the same kind of change and development, to fight poverty, bringing millions of people out of poverty. I think that has been an amazing success story. So I think he lays out for us a vision for the future where China is aspiring and working for a goal, but knowing very well that it's not going to be easier to achieve, and that everyone will have to actually pull up their socks, if you like, and pull up their sleeves and start working very hard. It's a message of warning to the Chinese people that, the good times are here, but they could get better, but you'll have to put in the effort, the labor and the soil and the tears to get there. So I think it's a very, let's say, a very dignified way of telling Chinese people, get ready for more work. It's not going to be easy, but at the end, the goal is very, very worth it. I think that, this is true that he is a very powerful leader. I mean, he has emerged as, I think, one of China's most prominent thinkers, leaders, but what he's doing, I think, is impressive in a world which is in turmoil. I mean, we don't have that kind of leadership in the West at the moment. In Western democracies, we don't have it. China, not being a democracy, is still working for the benefit of the people, and I think this has to be recognized by many people. The system works for the people, and the system is working to bring people out of poverty, to bring development to China. This is admirable, and this is very, very impressive. Xi Jinping could have been a powerful leader and just use his power for himself. But he's not doing that. He's using the power and the authority and the responsibility he has for his people. And that, I think, is something that is a lesson for the world, that authority and power is not just for yourself or your friends and your cronies. If you use it for the benefit and the good of the people, then you really are a remarkable leader. Look, we need a prosperous China. We need a stable China. China is the world's leading economy. It is a market which is so important for Europe's own economic future. We trade with China. We are interdependent and interconnected with China. If China's economy is doing well, the European economy is also doing well. What we are hoping, and this is very, very important that China understands and recognizes this, what we are hoping that all this talk, the speeches that Xi Jinping has made, including the one at the Party Congress, but the one he made in Davos also, the promise of openness, that he actually starts translating that into policy and actions. Because the concern here in Europe, as you know very well, is that these statements aren't followed up by actions. And now that he has the responsibility and the authority and the power, we are really hoping that Europe will be able to have better access to the Chinese market. That the restrictions that European business complains about, whether it's to do with investments, whether it's to do with exports, that those restrictions will disappear or will start to disappear. That there will be more trade and more investments. So I think, Europe is looking at China with respect, for sure, but also with a little bit of concern. Let's start seeing the words, the speeches translated into action. And I think if Xi Jinping can do that, can do very quickly in the next few months a few important gestures of openness as regards Europe, I think this will create a very good dynamic in this relationship, which, as you know, at the moment is not in the best of times because there are some frictions over trade, over investments. So if Xi Jinping can actually do something very quickly, which makes it clear that what he said, he's actually doing it, I think this will create a fantastic new era in EU-China relations as well. In terms of the things that I sort of picked up as being very important is the reform of the state-owned enterprises. I think this is very important, what Xi Jinping said. Of course, his commitment to fighting climate change, to improving the environment, to fighting pollution, which is such an important challenge for China. These are very important signals to send to the rest of the world, especially in an era where America, or at least Donald Trump, the president, is withdrawing from all the commitments to climate change. What he said on an open world economy, once again, at a time when Donald Trump has withdrawn from the Trans-Pacific Partnership and has also conveyed a message of no confidence in the World Trade Organization. This is also a very important signal. I think what I find also very heartening, of course, Xi Jinping did not mention the European Union. He did not mention the United States. But in the world today, we need big countries, the great powers that Xi Jinping talked about, to get along with each other, to work with each other for the benefit of their own countries, but also for the common public good of the planet. And I think there's a lot in what Xi Jinping said that actually has to do with the global environment. Now, his Belt and Road Initiative, this is one of his flagship projects, and I think it will be a test for European Union and China friendship. Because so far the European Union has been quite cautious about cooperating with China on the BRI, on the Belt and Road. But I think slowly but surely the project will start coming on stream. And that will be quite an important signal that Europe and China actually are working together, not just on small specific projects, but on a wide global scheme for the benefit of everyone. There will have to be many conversations, but a lot of demands that Europe has as regards transparency, public procurement issues, environmental standards, and sustainable development goals, etc. Those questions will have to be discussed very openly between Europe and China. But the signal is there, and I think this is something that the European Union should take very, very seriously and start working with China on this. So there are many things in this speech that I think will resonate, and to tell you the truth, analysts like me and others will be looking at that speech over and over again to see the new signs of the new trajectory for China. But I can tell you that at first glance, a lot of of course, it's about Chinese pride, about the Chinese military, about Hong Kong, about Taiwan. All of those issues are very important domestically, but they all have enormous repercussions on the rest of the world. So when he talks about China as a great power entering a new era, we really are entering a new era.
There are some on Xinhua.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you like a few questions.
Western interpretations.